Hi everyone, Mr. Matas here again. So I'm going to be today I'm going to be showing you some demonstrations in terms of using what we learned from the pear deck last week. Okay, so we're going to be creating some value scales using our color pencils. So I've got my color pencils here, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating some value scales like this. So we're going to be using some monochromatic value scales, complementary, and analogous. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to be showing you how to do all this stuff. So make sure that you've looked at the pear deck so that way you understand everything I'm going to be saying. Go ahead and gather your color pencils. You're going to need a ruler. You're going to need either a pen or pencil. It's up to you. And that's really all that you're going to be needing. Cool. All right, go get it, and I'll meet you back here in a few. For this demonstration, we're going to need the following materials. We're going to need a ruler, our primary and secondary colors, plus black and white of our colored pencils. Doesn't matter what kind of color pencils, Prismacolor, Crayola, or any other brand, doesn't matter. A pencil and a pen. I have two kinds of pens here. A sharpener is always good to have. And then I am going to be posting a color wheel similar to this, so that way you have the colors that we're going to be using, as well as some of the definitions of the words I'm going to be using that you looked at from the pear deck we sent out about a week ago. All right, so that's what we're going to be needing. First thing we need to do is we need to section off our piece of paper to create our areas that we're going to be coloring in. So really, for this first part, we're going to need our ruler, and we're going to need either a pen or pencil. I'm going to use a pen just so that way I could actually, or you could actually see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in over here, and I'm actually going to line up my my ruler, and I'm just going to I'm going to line my paper. All right. So again, I'm using my sketchbook that we have from school because I had it at home. It doesn't matter what kind of paper you use. Okay, so if you have a different kind of sketchbook, this one's 9 by 12. You want to get in as many different lines as possible here, okay? So that's the first one. Then I'm going to turn. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to line straight down the middle. Here, right? And then I'm going to go ahead, line up with the edge, line up with the other edge, and there we go. Got it? That's the first thing. So I've got that right there, so that way I have a different sections where I'm going to be able to use my different colors. For this next part, I'm going to label the color schemes that are going to go where. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to do is this. My first color scheme is going to be monochromatic. So I'm going to write in monochromatic. And it's going to be monochromatic number 1. This is going to be monochromatic number 2. So I'm going to have monochromatic value scales in these two areas. Then here, I'm going to do complementary. Again, I'm going to have complementary number 1, complementary number 2. And then my next one is going to be analogous. Again, number 1, number 2. Okay? So, now, before I move on to actually adding my color, I want to make sure I write down the definition of what monochromatic and what complementary colors are. So, I could take a look at my color wheel, and I flip it over, and on the back, tells me monochromatic color is a hue plus a tint and shade to create value. Okay, tells me what complementary is. Analogous. So I spelled that wrong. Okay, so monochromatic. Now I'm going to write in 1 color plus black and white to create value. Black is the shade, white is the tint. Complementary. Complementary colors are two colors on opposite sides of the color wheel. Analogous colors. Colors which sit next to each other on the color wheel. Okay, then I'm going to be ready to start adding some color. For this next step, I'm going to choose a primary color. So I have three primary colors to choose from. Okay, and I'm going to choose one. I'm going to go ahead and choose blue. Okay, and what I'm going to do right away is in the middle of these three, I'm going to put some blue so I know what I'm going to use. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a value scale, okay, using blue plus black and white to create value. All right, I'm going to be going from light to dark. So the first thing is I start in with a little bit of value in here. Notice how I fade away to the edges. Okay, fade away to the edges. Okay, then I reduce pressure again as I come across. This isn't a coloring. All right, so far 2 layers. Now I'm going to go ahead and take some white. I'm going to add a little bit of white to the edge over here, and I'm going to fade it in towards the middle. I don't reach the middle. Look where I stop. I do not reach the middle. I take a little bit of the blue, and I go back over. And take a little bit more white. Come back in. Take some more blue. This is fairly even, consistent pressure at this point. And I come back across. Remember, white is not a blender. There we go. Now I've created a nice values, light value going from blue to light blue. Notice this didn't take just 2 layers. It took quite a few layers to really get it to blend. And notice that the white never reaches the middle. Now I'm going to create my dark value. Okay, so I'm basically going to be going from my very lightest blue all the way to my darkest blue. So again, I always like to start with a layer of the main color, and I pull it across. Now I'm going to use some black. Black is very powerful, so I start very, very light. And I fade it towards the middle, but the black will never reach the middle. See? So notice where I stopped. Now I'm going to take my blue, and I'm going to go back over it. I am not pushing down hard. Notice where I'm holding the pencil, so that I do not have to push down very hard. It's all about layers and patience. You take another layer of black. And again, I'm not trying to change blue to black. I'm trying to make the blue darker. Okay. Then I come in across this way. Keep an even, consistent pressure. Now I could go the opposite direction if I really wanted to. And I've created a value scale going from light blue, blue, dark blue. Notice how the black and white never met. Okay? Just right in here. That's really all that I'm looking for. Got it? That's what we're going to be doing for this section. Once you've done this one, now you go to this one. For this one, choose a secondary color. Okay, so, oops, that's not right. So now I'm going to choose a secondary color. Doesn't matter which one. Take a pick. I'm going to choose green, and we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with another color. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up so that way you can see what this looks like. For the next part, we're going to be doing complementary colors in these areas. Complementary colors, as I explained here, are two colors on opposite sides of the color wheel. So I use blue monochromatic here, so here I'm going to do blue complementary. Okay, so when I look at the color wheel, blue is opposite orange. Okay, so I'm going to be using blue and orange. Orange is going to be creating my dark. White is going to be creating my light. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to zoom in for you so that way you can see how these colors are mixed. So first of all, make sure you have sharpened pencils, because as you know, trying to draw with unsharpened pencils is pointless. So once again, I start the same way I did my my monochromatic. So I start by adding in some blue. Right, so that establishes my entire scale. I'm going to go light, similar to this, but over here it's going to be different. So let me do the white just like I did up here. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the dark part of the scale. Instead of using black, I'm using orange. The point is not to make the blue become orange, but rather to darken and dull the blue using orange. We're always used to using black to darken colors, but there are many other options. So that's what we're trying to learn here, is how to use these different colors to impact each other. So we're not limited by just using black and everything looks the same. No, you'll notice that my blue starts to get a little bit darker and duller. That's what complementary colors do. I am not trying to turn the blue into orange. I am trying to darken and dull the blue using its complement, which is orange. Notice again, the white does not go to the other side and the orange does not go to the other side. I'm keeping fairly consistent pressure right now so that way it's blending in. Because again, the super secret to successful color pencil shading is layers. And you've noticed that I have darkened and dulled the blue. I want to be careful not to create a brown by mixing too much of the orange into it, where suddenly it doesn't look blue, but rather looks more brown. So there we go, more layers of blue than orange, and you'll notice that it darkens and dulls. Right? Cool? Does that make sense? Now that I did my first one, I'm going to do my second one. For my second complementary color value scale, I get to choose whatever colors I want. I'm going to go ahead and use violet, white, and then what is violet's complementary color? Yellow. So I'm going to use yellow. Once again, I'm going to sharpen. Then I'm going to go ahead and start putting in my value scale. I'm going to speed this up so that way you can see what it looks like overall. So we have our first two value scales using our first two color schemes. So we have monochromatic, complementary. Okay, you'll notice that the blue is the same in the middle and on the light side, but look at the dark. It's very different because we use black up here and we use the complement here. So now we're going to go and move on to our third one. That's why I want blue. You could use whatever primary color you want to here, but notice I used blue, blue, blue. You could use yellow, yellow, yellow. You could use red, red, red. It's up to you. But now with this one, I'm going to be using analogous color scheme. And this is the most complex one because analogous colors are those that sit next to each other on the color wheel. So when I'm looking at blue here, you'll notice that I have blue violet and blue green. But I don't have blue green and blue violet color pencils, right? And even if you do, if you have like the 24 color pack, don't use them. I want you to use the violet and I want you to use the green. I want you to learn how to mix, okay? So this one does tend to get a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to try to go through this a little slowly and take my time with it so you understand. Now, from here, I'm going to be using blue as my main color. I'm obviously going to be sharpening it. And then I have an option, okay, is I'm going to be using one of these two colors as the main support color, okay, the main support color. Now, what I mean by that is it's going to be the main color that is going to make my color darker, duller, and whatnot. It will not get anywhere near as dark as these two, but that's fine, okay? And then the other color is going to be used as a secondary support and or a highlight, okay? Now, white is going to be used again to lighten, okay? Just like in monochromatic and complementary. That is the one constant. White gets used in all of these color schemes, okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and use analogous. So I'm going to zoom in so that way you can see what I'm going to be doing a little bit easier. All right, there we go. So, again, I'm going to start it just like I did the other ones. Practice, practice, practice. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the highlight area so that way I don't lose you. Okay, so now that I've created my light value, now I'm going to go ahead and make my darker value. So I start this just like I did with monochromatic and complementary. So I add another layer of blue. Now, notice how I get lighter as I get across because I'm reducing pressure. Now I choose which color do I want to use. Okay, normally I would ask the class which one they want me to use. There is no right or wrong answer at this point because it's a matter of learning. Eventually, as you start getting into specific moods, as you start getting into creating specific temperatures and whatnot, it does matter. But for right now, it does not. So I'm going to go ahead and use my violet. Okay, so I'm going to use my violet in here, and I'm going to go ahead and use it as if I was using my black or my orange in the other color schemes. At first, you'll notice that what happens is it doesn't actually get darker. What happens is I'm mixing blue with violet and it becomes blue-violet, right? And that's not really what I'm looking for, right? That's not really creating a darker value. That is creating a different color. So we are altering its hue, not just its value so much. Okay? And when you looked at the pear deck, you notice too that analogous colors don't have a lot of contrast. This is why, because the colors are very related to each other. Okay. So what I'm going to do is here, it didn't go dark enough for me, right? So now, since violet was my main support, now I'm going to add in my green. I'm going to add in a little bit of green, and look what that does right away. It starts to darken it a little bit more. All right. Come in here with some of my blue, and suddenly I've created a darker blue using that, right? Still not as dark as the black or the orange, but you get the idea. Now that I finished that one, I'm going to move on to this one. Okay, so you'll notice I used green for the first monochromatic, then I used, or for this monochromatic, then I used violet for the complementary. So now I'm going to choose a different secondary color, just because I want to. So I have not used orange yet, and so when I look at orange, next to orange I'm going to have red and I'm going to have yellow. Okay, so those are the ones I'm going to grab. And then again, I'm going to use my white. It's getting kind of small, but that's okay. All right, so now from here, I'm going to go ahead and start with my orange. I'm going to stop talking and just going to go through it so you can see what it does, okay?